So as I mentioned in another video, if you're involved in food storage and you have flour or cornmeal stored, or you've stored wheat to grind for flour or corn to grind for cornmeal, you're probably going to want to, if you haven't thought of it already, and it's I didn't think of it, so this is why I'm doing this. You probably want to go ahead and store some baking powder also. In another video, I stored baking soda, and now I'm going to store baking powder. Bought this at Sam's. It's almost 4 pounds of baking soda, 3.75 pounds. I figure that'll do about maybe 4 pint jars. So I was looking for something to get down in this jar, and I came up with a big soup spoon, I guess you'd call it. And I always use a canning funnel. That just saves on a lot of mess. Probably buy it for $1.50. It'll save you $20 worth of problems. All right. I want to get it pretty full. A little bit more. We'll see how many jars that fills up. Well, I made a little bit of a mess, and as I figured, it would be. It made 4 pint jars that are not quite full. So it's 3.75, and the old saying is a pint is a pound the world around. So that's pretty much true to fact. Okay. I've got something that I believe to be pretty important, and that's coffee filters. If you're vacuum sealing with a vacuum sealer, and this is a canister attachment, we'll be putting a lid on, and I'll show you how to do that. But if you're vacuum sealing with a dry powder, sometimes that powder can get sucked back into the machine and can kind of clog it up and stuff. So we don't want that to happen. So to try to prevent it from happening, I'm going to put a coffee filter on top as a barrier, best I can, as a barrier between the powder and the vacuum. We'll see how that goes. I've got some lids that I've soaked in hot water. Just microwave some water in a jar. I'm going to wipe the inside of that lid off because I don't want anything wet inside the jar. So wipe that off before I do, excuse me. Wipe the lid off, and then with the wet towel, I'm going to wipe the ring, the lip of that jar off. Make sure it doesn't have any powder on it, any baking powder on it. Put that on there. This is a this is a jar sealer. This is a regular mouth. Back here is the wide mouth. Put that on there. If you're vacuum sealer, I have a Foodsaver, an old Foodsaver. You can tell that thing's ancient. It has a canister attachment. Didn't come with it, but I separately bought a hose, bought the canister attachments to do both wide and regular mouth. Put that on there. On my Foodsaver, I have a button here that says canister. I push the canister button, turn it on first. I push the canister button, and it will vacuum out the air out of that jar with the lid on it. When it stops, you know it's gotten all the air out. Listen for the vacuum. And that is sealed. I've got a little bit of powdery residue on top. That lets me know that it could have pulled a little powder up along that lip. So I'm going to do it again. I want to make sure I get a good seal. So I'll wipe the lid, wipe the lip of the jar. Put it on there again. Seal it. Okay. Very good. No residue. I'll put a ring on that, and I'll leave a ring on it. Some things that I can, wet can, I don't leave a ring on. But on this, being a powder, and the possibility of some of the powder getting up between the lip of the jar and this lid, I'm going to screw down a ring on it pretty tight and leave it there. Now, from time to time, I go through the storage of, especially the dry things, rice, potatoes, milk, things like that, all the dry products that I've shown you. I'll check the seals on it from time to time. And every now and then I'll find one that's popped. I'll bring it back in. I just do this again on it. Not a big deal. So just in case you're like me and you forgot about doing things like this, baking powder, baking soda, you may want to give this a try. Go get some baking powder, but add baking powder, baking soda to your storage. If you have food storage, if you're storing wheat or flour, cornmeal, I don't think you'll be sorry. And we are gone.